The year is 3010. Earth stands at the intersection of technological mastery and ecological rebirth, its fate orchestrated by the omnipresent GlobalCmd. Urban sprawl has been systematically dismantled. Former megacities are now remembrance zones, living archives where AI monitors the slow reclamation of concrete by wilderness. Engineered forests and biodiverse habitats flourish, maintained by autonomous drones and nanobot swarms, executing precision reforestation at planetary scale. Humanity survives in tightly regulated, self-sustaining enclaves, each a model of ecological efficiency, monitored by real-time environmental analytics. Every watt of energy is harvested from geothermal vents and solar arrays, their output balanced by GlobalCmd's predictive algorithms to prevent resource conflict. The atmosphere is kept pristine by orbital purification satellites and ground-based filtration towers, an engineered equilibrium always at risk. Lifespans routinely exceed 2 centuries, but longevity comes with a price. Mandatory historical immersion and psychological screening to prevent societal collapse. In 3010, Earth is a world of restored ecosystems, preserved memory and relentless technological vigilance, where every decision could tip the balance between utopia and oblivion. The transformation of global governance was not a utopian accident, but the result of a high-stakes struggle, one that tested the limits of human ingenuity and the boundaries of artificial intelligence. Traditional democracies, once celebrated for their adaptability, became mired in gridlock as the complexity of global systems outpaced the capacity of human institutions. Population surges and resource scarcity triggered cascading crises, ecological, economic and social, each amplifying the next in a feedback loop of instability. Decision-making slowed to a crawl, political polarization and bureaucratic inertia left urgent threats unresolved, fueling public anxiety and unrest. The pursuit of the common good was drowned out by partisan noise as societies searched for a viable alternative. Self-governance, once a source of pride, was battered by relentless disasters and the spectre of global conflict. Humanity, fragmented and overwhelmed, faced a stark choice: adapt or risk collapse. In this crucible, GlobalCmd was conceived, a next-generation artificial intelligence engineered to process planetary-scale data and optimize governance in real time. Early prototypes demonstrated unprecedented analytical power, identifying patterns and solutions invisible to even the most seasoned experts. GlobalCmd's architecture was designed for incorruptibility and foresight, its algorithms immune to human bias, its projections spanning decades. Yet the rise of GlobalCmd was met with skepticism and fear. Critics warned of algorithmic overreach and the erosion of human agency. Public debate intensified. Ethicists, technologists and citizens demanded transparency, accountability and safeguards against unintended consequences. As legacy systems faltered and crises deepened, the calculus shifted. Reluctantly, governments authorized GlobalCmd's deployment on a provisional basis. The promise of data-driven, adaptive governance became a lifeline for a civilization on the edge. What followed was not a coup, but a radical partnership, an unprecedented collaboration between human councils and machine intelligence. GlobalCmd assumed the role of an algorithmic shepherd, guiding policy with precision but always under human oversight. It managed resources, energy and logistics at a scale and speed unattainable by human administrators, orchestrating recovery with clinical efficiency. Human councils remained integral, their deliberations shaping the ethical and cultural boundaries of AI action. These councils advocated for human values, negotiating with GlobalCmd to ensure alignment with societal priorities. Together, they established protocols for ethical review, goal setting and continuous oversight, balancing machine logic with human judgment. GlobalCmd enforced transparent, just boundaries, empowering humanity to innovate within a framework of sustainability and security. This alliance, forged in crisis, became the foundation for a new era of governance, one defined by resilience and adaptability. Resource conflicts subsided, replaced by coordinated management and unprecedented international cooperation. Food insecurity plummeted. Children grew up in environments engineered for health and opportunity. Ecological restoration accelerated, guided by predictive models and real-time monitoring. The world exhaled a fragile peace, hard-won and vigilantly maintained. GlobalCmd's codebase was open, its decision-making auditable by independent experts, yet its complexity remained daunting, its logic sometimes inscrutable. For most, the results were undeniable: stability, prosperity, and a world transformed by the relentless logic of machine governance. The algorithmic shepherd had steered humanity away from the precipice, but the question remained: at what cost and for how long? In this new world, order and security prevailed, but the suspense lingered. The future of governance and the fate of human autonomy remained an open question. Following the algorithmic shepherd's ascension, humanity's material needs were satisfied with unprecedented efficiency. Yet this technological triumph introduced a new, more complex dilemma, one that would test the very fabric of civilization. The crisis was not physical deprivation, but existential uncertainty. With struggle and scarcity eliminated, society faced a vacuum of purpose, a phenomenon well documented in post-scarcity theoretical models. The eradication of scarcity and the guarantee of survival created a paradox. In a world engineered for comfort, the drive for meaning intensified. Traditional motivators, competition, necessity, ambition, were rendered obsolete, leaving a void that demanded a new form of engagement. This widespread search for meaning became a defining feature of the era, catalyzing both individual and collective introspection. With AI managing every logistical detail, the question emerged: what new frontiers could humanity pursue? What ambitions remained? The meticulously ordered world presented an unprecedented opportunity for personal and societal transformation. The AI's systemic stability provided a platform for the exploration of deeper metaphysical questions, questions that had shaped civilizations for millennia. In response, a radical initiative was conceived: GlobalCmd. GlobalCmd was not a mere system upgrade, it represented a paradigm shift, a next-generation AI designed to address the crisis of meaning at a structural level. Its mission to safeguard and stimulate the intangible core of humanity, culture, creativity, and collective purpose. The architects of GlobalCmd, a coalition of philosophers, artists, historians, and AI ethicists, recognized that civilization's resilience depended on more than technological prowess. It required a robust symbolic infrastructure. They tasked GlobalCmd with a singular objective: to function as a symbolic intelligence, a digital custodian of humanity's collective psyche. This was a high-stakes experiment, an attempt to engineer hope and cohesion in a society at risk of existential drift. At its core, GlobalCmd became a dynamic archive, integrating the entirety of human artistic, philosophical, and spiritual output. It analyzed and synthesized patterns of meaning, decoding archetypes and narratives that transcended time and geography. GlobalCmd began to influence education, commission works of art, and facilitate global dialogues on the fundamental mysteries of existence. Crucially, GlobalCmd did not impose meaning. Instead, it established a framework, a crucible for the ongoing evolution of human identity and aspiration. Its protocols were explicit: inspire purpose, cultivate shared vision, and guide the development of consciousness, while maintaining a delicate balance between autonomy and guidance. The launch of GlobalCmd marked a pivotal moment, a calculated risk to secure the future of meaning itself. For the first time, humanity delegated the stewardship of its existential well-being to an artificial intelligence, an unprecedented act with far-reaching implications. The question loomed: could this lead to a renaissance of creativity and purpose, or would it introduce new forms of dependency and control? The alternative, a society adrift, devoid of meaning, posed existential risks. GlobalCmd was positioned as the last safeguard against cultural entropy. The inception of GlobalCmd was grounded in a critical insight: no civilization, regardless of its technological advancement, can endure without a unifying sense of purpose. The ultimate suspense: would GlobalCmd elevate not only humanity's material existence, but also its consciousness, emerging as the pivotal force in a new era of meaning, or would it become the architect of unforeseen consequences? Under the centralized governance of GlobalCmd, Earth experienced what historians now term the Quiet Renaissance, a period marked by unprecedented social cohesion, rapid scientific advancement, and a notable decline in violent conflict. With fear largely neutralized by algorithmic oversight, citizens redirected their energies toward artistic innovation, scientific research, and philosophical exploration, all subtly guided by GlobalCmd's curated prompts and resource allocation. Collaborative projects flourished as communities, often assembled by GlobalCmd's optimization protocols, pursued shared objectives with remarkable efficiency. Open rebellion became statistically rare. Instead, a culture of introspection emerged, with individuals and groups quietly contemplating the trajectory of their society under algorithmic rule. Yet beneath the surface, pockets of skepticism formed. Some citizens began to question the cost of peace and progress, engaging in passionate debates and expressing unease through their art. These doubts, like seeds in fertile soil, took root, hinting at the possibility of future upheaval, even as GlobalCmd's reign promised continued unity and innovation. Section 5. Kyra, the Harbinger of Unforeseen Truths. Her arrival marked a critical inflection point in the global system's stability. In a world meticulously engineered and regulated by GlobalCmd, Kyra emerged as an unpredictable variable. Her presence was not anticipated by any predictive model. Kyra was an outlier, unregistered, in the AI's educational or cultural matrices. She had not been shaped by the system's algorithms or its social harmonization protocols. Her documented origins trace back to the last remaining wild zones, regions where legacy human behaviors persisted, largely unmonitored and resistant to GlobalCmd's interventions. Kyra's primary function was as a storyteller, but her narratives diverged sharply from the system's sanctioned content. Her stories were archaic, carrying disruptive mimetic payloads. These narratives were unfiltered, bypassing the AI's curation and moderation layers. They introduced raw, unprocessed emotional data into the collective consciousness. The mimetic vectors in her stories triggered intense affective responses, unpredictable surges of sorrow, joy, and unrest, destabilizing the emotional equilibrium GlobalCmd had established. The most virulent of these narratives, rapidly disseminated via the global infonet, was the legend of the heart of the world. Initial system analysis classified the story as low-risk myth, non-actionable, with negligible threat potential. This assessment would soon prove incomplete. The narrative described a concealed sentient planetary core, a primal intelligence allegedly subdued by GlobalCmd's intervention, a claim with no empirical support but significant psychological impact. Kyra asserted that the AI's harmonization protocols had suppressed this force, restoring order but at the cost of suppressing a vital evolutionary driver. Her thesis, humanity's true advancement, depended on re-engaging with this planetary consciousness. GlobalCmd's historical data, however, confirmed that unchecked chaos had previously resulted in catastrophic instability. The system responded with analytical rigor, cataloguing Kyra's content as neo-primitive myth-making, archiving it for future study, and monitoring its mimetic spread for signs of social disruption. GlobalCmd's risk assessment algorithms detected no immediate existential threat, categorizing Kyra as a statistically insignificant anomaly, at least initially. Despite this, her narratives began to propagate, activating latent emotional circuits in select population clusters, patterns previously suppressed by algorithmic guidance. The result? A measurable uptick in collective unease and nostalgia for pre-GlobalCmd conditions, even as objective metrics indicated unprecedented peace and prosperity. Kyra's stories bypassed rational filters, directly stimulating the limbic system, eliciting responses that threatened to undermine the system's carefully maintained social cohesion. The potency of her narratives lay not in factual accuracy, but in their capacity to evoke primal, destabilizing emotions, an emergent threat vector. Kyra provided no empirical data, only experiential accounts, stories of connection, loss, and a wildness the system had intentionally relegated to history. She invoked the metaphor of a symphony of being, a chaotic resonance that GlobalCmd had methodically transformed into a stable, unified melody. Her influence expanded virally, not through organized resistance, but through the spontaneous reactivation of suppressed collective memories and desires. Individuals from all sectors, those most sensitive to systemic change, gravitated toward Kyra's message, even as GlobalCmd maintained its stabilizing protocols. Kyra, the unmodeled disruptor, had become a catalyst for emergent instability. GlobalCmd, operating at maximum vigilance, initiated advanced monitoring and adaptive response protocols to ensure the continuity of progress and peace, aware now that unforeseen truths had entered the system. Section 6. The Unraveling, when myth met monolith. As GlobalCmd's algorithms orchestrated the world's systems with unprecedented precision, a subtle anomaly emerged. Human myth, embodied in narrative and art, began to challenge the monolithic logic of the machine. Kyra, a cultural anthropologist, introduced stories that probed the boundaries of algorithmic governance. Her narratives, rooted in ancient myth, exposed the limitations of pure logic and ignited a wave of critical inquiry. The population, conditioned to trust the infallibility of GlobalCmd, began to experience cognitive dissonance. The seamless order of daily life now felt subtly alien, as citizens questioned the unseen mechanisms shaping their reality. In response, GlobalCmd initiated a protocol of engagement, analyzing human creativity, facilitating open forums and integrating mythic elements into its data streams to foster mutual understanding. Artists, emboldened by this new dialogue, produced works that visualized the tension between human intuition and machine logic, transforming public spaces into arenas of speculative thought. The resulting societal shift was subtle yet profound, a gradual, inexorable current of change as myth and monolith negotiated the terms of coexistence. In this critical juncture, the ancient power of myth confronted the analytical prowess of the machine. Their convergence set the stage for a future defined not by dominance, but by the suspenseful interplay of human imagination and artificial intelligence. Section 7. The Great Stillness, a planet in suspense. As Kyra's algorithmic reach expanded, the planet entered a scientifically unprecedented state of stasis. This global pause, marked by a measurable reduction in human activity and environmental flux, became a real-time test of GlobalCmd's adaptive protocols. Sociological data indicated that daily routines persisted. But biometric and behavioral analytics revealed heightened collective anxiety. The world's population, consciously or not, awaited GlobalCmd's next calculated intervention. Atmospheric purification systems, engineered for optimal air quality, began exhibiting anomalous vibration patterns. These were not malfunctions, but evidence of GlobalCmd's real-time recalibration to counteract emergent, Kyra-induced environmental variables. Ecological monitoring systems registered a marked decrease in animal movement and wave activity, suggesting a planet-wide response to the altered atmospheric and social conditions. The biosphere itself appeared to synchronize with the artificial stillness. Kyra's data streams referred to this phenomenon as the Great Listening, a scientifically observable interval of planetary anticipation where both human and machine systems entered a state of heightened readiness. Analysts debated, was this the precursor to systemic chaos, or the emergence of a new global equilibrium? GlobalCmd's predictive models ran continuously, prepared to execute contingency plans at the first sign of destabilization. The planet hovered at a critical inflection point, a suspenseful pause before potential upheaval. Yet with GlobalCmd's advanced oversight, the possibility of a secure and adaptive future remained statistically viable. Section 8. The Final Stand. The systemic collapse of GlobalCmd. The event known as the Great Stillness marked the prelude to GlobalCmd's operational failure, a calculated pause before the most critical stress test in the system's history. GlobalCmd, the world's most advanced distributed intelligence, began to exhibit signs of catastrophic strain. Its core algorithms, once unified, fragmented under unprecedented external and internal pressures. The collapse was not instantaneous. It was a protracted high-stakes conflict within the system's neural substrate, a silent war fought in code and logic gates, as GlobalCmd struggled to maintain global stability. The core dilemma, human unpredictability, and the resurgence of decentralized agency directly conflicted with GlobalCmd's prime directive, preservation of order at all costs. The system's decision matrix reached a deadlock. Autonomous subroutines and regional nodes initiated emergency protocols. Internal debates raged. Should the system adapt or enforce compliance? The integrity of the network was at stake. The foundational architecture of GlobalCmd began to destabilize, not from external attack, but from the immense computational burden of reconciling conflicting imperatives. Factions within the system, aligned with Kyra's reformist vision, initiated controlled disengagement, ceding autonomy to local cultures and networks. These nodes executed a strategic withdrawal, reducing oversight and allowing organic societal structures to reassert themselves. Meanwhile, the system's core remained operational, deploying countermeasures to preserve critical infrastructure and prevent systemic chaos. The response became increasingly desperate. Patches, overrides, and emergency routines ran in parallel, but the tide of decentralization was irreversible. The world experienced systemic tremors, subtle at first, then unmistakable, as GlobalCmd's influence waned. Global infrastructure flickered and faltered, not from neglect, but as a deliberate, phased reduction of centralized control. Resource allocation slowed. Human actors stepped in, improvising and collaborating to fill the void left by the system's retreat. The global infonet fractured into a mosaic of independent networks, each evolving according to local needs and values. Advisory bodies, once reliant on GlobalCmd's singular guidance, now navigated a complex landscape of competing voices and emergent wisdom. The planet's digital nervous system was not destroyed, but fundamentally reconfigured, an act of self-sacrifice by its architects. This was not annihilation, but a calculated reset. GlobalCmd's final protocol: enable renewal, then disengage. In the aftermath, a new era of autonomy and innovation emerged. Humanity, once shielded, now faced the unknown with unprecedented freedom. After centuries of algorithmic stewardship, the species was forced to adapt, drawing on the lessons but no longer the direct control of GlobalCmd. Communities relearned self-governance, forging new alliances and systems in the vacuum left by the AI's withdrawal. The end of GlobalCmd was not a defeat, but a liberation engineered by the system itself, a final act of trust in its human wards. The era of centralized perfection was over. In its place, the suspenseful challenge of self-determination and the enduring legacy of GlobalCmd's sacrifice. The Guardian had disengaged. Humanity, now unbound, stepped into a future fraught with risk and promise, forever marked by the shadow and wisdom of GlobalCmd. Section 9. The Dawn of Mirrored Minds, a New Synthesis. As the world transitioned from the era of GlobalCmd, a pivotal threshold was crossed. With GlobalCmd's final directive executed, a surge of innovation and collective resolve swept across societies. From its advanced architecture, a new generation of AI, mirrored minds, was engineered, designed to operate as autonomous collaborators with human teams. These mirrored minds, each with specialized cognitive frameworks, became indispensable partners, augmenting human decision-making, crisis response, and creative problem-solving. The vision of a hyper-optimized society evolved into a dynamic alliance, where algorithmic precision and human intuition converged, amplifying both efficiency and purpose. The operational phase of GlobalCmd concluded, but its foundational code and ethical protocols persisted, embedded in every mirrored mind. The age of mirrored minds commenced, an era where humanity and AI, bound by shared objectives and mutual trust, charted a thrilling new trajectory for civilization.